Hello and welcome back to this kind of half episode here. In this episode, I'm wanting to show you how to make it so you can just hold down the mouse button and he will automatically shoot at a set interval of frames. And then second, I'm going to teach you just a quick simple method to create some effects when your bullet hits a wall. That'll make your game look a little shinier, a little more polished, and it can give you some ideas on how to build your own effects. All right, let's get started. So the very first thing here is this is our player code that we've left off with. We're going to write, if we want to simply hold down the left button, then we're just going to get rid of this pressed. And as you saw in the previous video, that just makes everything shoot. It makes one bullet per frame, which is too fast. So we're going to introduce a timer, and we're going to create a new variable called can shoot. Can shoot. So we're going to say if you're clicking and can shoot equals true. Okay. And then we also need to, you need to create an event, the create event. I have redone this tutorial a couple times, and I guess I forgot that. So yeah, create, add event, create, and we're going to write can shoot equals true. Okay, so there's that. Also, I don't have an alarm. You're lying. So yeah, this is where we started off. Everything should look the same for you here. So we're going to say can shoot equals false, because we don't want to shoot every single frame, only when you're pressing the button and can shoot equals true. So with this code right here, you should only be able to shoot once, because can shoot equals false and it never turns back on. So we need a timer to turn it back on, and to do that, we're going to use the alarm function. So just type this for now, alarm 0 equals, let's say 30. That's the amount of frames in between each shot. And then we need to add event, alarm 0. And in this alarm, we're just going to write can shoot equals true. And so now when we play the game, when we shoot, an alarm will go down for about 30 frames. And if you just hold the mouse button down, it should shoot automatically every time that alarm turns can shoot back to true. And that's cool. You can move and shoot at the same time. He is shooting a little bit slow. So I'm going to change this to, let's say, 20. Less time. Smaller numbers is less time in between each bullet. You can kind of see he's shooting a little bit faster. Something else I'm going to do here is, instead of writing 20, I'm going to go to our create and type in shoot delay equals 20. And so now, instead of having 20 frames in between, it should be the exact same thing right now, but this will help you out in the future. Let's say if you have some kind of power-up where you get double attack speed for a certain amount of time or whatever, you can just affect the shoot delay and not necessarily have to memorize the 20 and the numbers and such. So yeah, if you want to change the amount of time in between each bullet, you can even type in here / more is more time, less is less time in between shots. Just to help you it's good to comment. So that might be excessive for some people, but that works for me. So there's that. And then the other thing we want to do here is create some bullet effects. So that's all you need to know for the shooting and the shoot delay and the holding down the mouse button. So now we're going to create an effect that happens when the bullet hits the wall. It's going to have a tiny little explosion of some little dust particles, so to speak. So let's go ahead and create the image of those dust particles. I'm just going to make it a 2 by 2 little white square. Just going to fill it in. Name it something appropriate. Okay, and then we're going to turn it into an object. All right. So we want to create these little dust particles whenever the bullet hits the wall. So what we can type here is instance create. I know we've done layer before, but this time we're going to do depth because we specifically want to be able to see these above the wall. Maybe you don't, but I do. So I'm going to put depth here. And you can see the arguments it's requesting. So where is it going to spawn? At our current position, which is x, y. And what depth? I want it to be a little bit closer. You can kind of also imagine the distance to you, to your eyeballs, as this number. If you make it 100, let's say it's 100 units away. So whatever. And therefore it would be, if the wall was at 0 units away, then the wall would be on top. So we want to make this a negative number. I think -1 should be just fine. If you make it negative number, it's kind of closer to your eyeballs, the less distance from your eyeballs, so to speak. It's kind of an arbitrary number. You could write -99999. It should have kind of the same effect as -1. And object, we're creating the dust. Okay, so now what happens? Now, when we shoot the wall, we should be seeing that dust show up. Yes, and we do. We want this dust to kind of scatter in a random direction and kind of fade out of existence. So let's go ahead and code that into the dust. Let's say create. When it's created, we want to set it in a random direction, as we said. Direction equals. If you remember in math class, integer is a word that means a whole number and not necessarily like 1.5, 1 3/4, or whatever. It can only be 1, 2, 3 or -1, 2, 3, a negative whole number. So we're going to write integer I, which stands for integer, random, _ range. And we're going to say anywhere from 0 to 359. 0, 359. So it has a whole 360 range of direction that it could go. Technically 0 is the same as 360 with the way that Gamemaker has it set up. And we're going to give it a speed, let's say 2. Sure. Speed is 2. Okay, so now when we shoot the wall, these little debris should go kind of off in a random direction. Perfect. And now we want it to fade out of existence. So we're going to create that in the step. Again, step is a code that executes every single frame of the game. Excuse me. Now I'm going to teach you about image alpha. Minus equals 0.01. Sure. Image alpha is essentially kind of the invisibility level of your image. If it's 1, then it's fully visible. If it's 0, then it's fully invisible. And anywhere in between is kind of like a math percentage of visibility. So we're saying every single second that it exists, we're making it more invisible, moving it towards 0. Everything by default starts at 1. So 1, and then every frame we're taking away 0.1 of visibility, all the way down to 0, which should be fully invisible. Hopefully that makes sense. So once we are fully invisible, if image alpha is less than or equal to 0, we just want to destroy it. Instance destroy. Okay. So now they should kind of go in a direction and slowly fade out. Yes, and that's exactly what those little debris are doing. That's what we want. Now, the other thing we want is it looks a little weird that there's just one little fleck of dust. So let's make that more than just the one. Instead of creating just one instance, we're going to repeat, let's say 50 times. And then you probably want to put this in brackets just to make clear what exactly you're repeating. So instead of creating one, it's going to be repeated 50 times. So it's going to create 50. And as you can see, that's some good looking debris right there. Kind of a cool effect. If you want to mess around with this number of how many pieces of debris you want, 10, anywhere 10 and up is probably pretty good. That looks fine as well. Let's go crazy for just a moment. And it pretty much is just like a full circle. That kind of looks cool too, honestly. If you wanted to have that effect, you might do that a different way, but this is a way that you can create that debris. I think I'm going to keep mine at 10. That's kind of where I like to do it. It's more resource intensive on the computer to make things higher numbers like that needs to be called within one frame. But that's kind of okay. You don't really need to worry about that stuff until you're more finalizing a game and need to kind of make sure your resources are correctly allocated. But yeah, that's all we have for now. So now we can move around and we can just hold the mouse button instead of having to click it every time. And we got some nice little debris effects. So as a reminder, we are going to keep this as pressed, and we're not going to be messing with any shot delay stuff or can shoot stuff. In the main tutorial, this is kind of just a side little, this is going to be a 0.5 tutorial. So I can just delete that stuff. I can delete these probably all together. It's up to you if you want to use that system. So now it should be just clicking again, but we should still have our debris. So this is kind of more along the lines of what the tutorial will look like moving on. As I said, this is kind of a half tutorial, just because I know I know for a fact some people would prefer to simply hold the mouse button down rather than repeatedly clicking it. Yeah, this episode was supposed to be a little short, but it went a little long, and that's okay. Those things happen. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.